I'm Joe Baxter Webb. This is Indie Game Clinic, a channel where I talk about indie games and how they are made. Every Thursday I do this stream called Indies Under the Knife, where some games are submitted to me and I take a look at them and I see what we can learn from them. I try and give feedback from the developers, at least on areas that I feel confident in giving feedback in, and we see what we can learn. I have picked out an odd selection of games today, and they are all loosely, well, not all of them actually. I had a few God games in, and I wanted to do a God game stream, and then I realised I didn't have enough God games, so it's sort of like God games and games where you sort of play as a god, and there's a management game in here as well. So I like all of those things. I like management simulations and things like that, and I think God games are really kind of a subcategory of that, really, with a different theme, and it will be interesting to see how that theme comes out in the games that we do have. So this is also a type of game that is difficult to review in 30 minutes, but I will do my darned best. And if any of these really pique my interest and I want to play them for longer, I will maybe schedule another stream for them. I have a long list of games that I want to do sort of 2-3 hour streams for and play for a longer period of time. So I do this initial one, and sometimes I fit a few games into one stream, and if any of them really pique my interest and I want to delve deeper into them, we'll schedule another stream for another day. But we've got a game called Plentiful, a relaxing game about harnessing nature. I don't think this is a traditional God game. I think this is like a minimalist, tiny glade type game, which is fine. But we've still got some sort of element of resource management because it says feed your tribe here. So we'll see what happens. Seasons, day-night cycle, water simulation, stone stacking, volcanoes, lightning, flood, locusts, earthquakes, plagues, fire. Feels like they've really honed in on what people would expect from a game of this type in terms of the theme, but we'll see how well it's executed. And I think everything I'm playing today has a public demo. I tend not to, or at least not on this stream, I tend not to play things that have had a commercial release. I tend to play things that are still being developed. But yeah, kind of cute looking. Sort of strange mix of like very, very high definition lighting and then this more abstract hexagonal style, but we'll take a look at that in a minute. We've got Boogie Fungi, which is about maintaining a colony of mushrooms and giving them parties. Sort of reminds me of that, what was that Singing Monsters game? My Singing Monsters. This was like a sort of casual kids game where you built up this little colony of monsters and they all sang a song. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that. It's giving me those kind of vibes. But I'm always a fan of when of like myconids, like when a mushroom is a little guy. I like that. I might put myconid in my game actually because I've got a lot of mushroom stuff and I don't have a mushroom that runs around yet, and I think I might be missing out. But yeah, look, Shiitake, big hat. That is I'm pretty sure that's already a Dark Souls character, right? That guy. We've got God Save the Creatures, which I think is a bit more of a sort of grid-based puzzle game. Lemmingsy, choo-choo rockety. Trying to help some creatures without getting them squished. So again, I'm using the term God game incredibly loosely here, but thematically these fit together. And then we've got a management simulator about AAA games, and we'll see how this works. I'm not super excited about the art style of this, but I also appreciate that sometimes you're just doing what you can. But the art style doesn't maybe fit the theme for me, I would say, because it just looks like it belongs somewhere else. But I'm interested to see what this is. I'm always a bit wary of this kind of stuff when people try to satirize the games industry in this particular way, because I think it requires actually quite a lot of background knowledge of how things work. So we'll see. Maybe this will end up being the game that I want to play a longer stream of to kind of really dig into how it makes its argument about the games industry and how it works or how it doesn't work, dysfunctions of the game industry. But yeah, I don't know. I tend to be quite anti. Look, I will never stand up for AAA games publishers, right? I think a lot of what's bad about the games industry comes from publishers, publisher pressure. But if anything in this game is sort of ripping it out of the studios themselves and the people that work there, then I'm probably not going to get on very well with it. But we'll see. We'll see when we get there. We've got 2 hours. I'm going to give each of these games half an hour. If any of them seem particularly interesting, I'll schedule another stream to look at them in more depth. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing today. So we've got sort of a colony management game. We've got 2 games that are loosely themed around playing as a god, and then we've got running a AAA studio, which is kind of like a god game in a weird way. Hi, folks in the chat. I am doing okay. I'm doing okay. It's a it's the end of the coming up to the end of the summer holidays here, so the kids are still home and they're maybe a bit bummed out about going back to school in about 10 days or whatever. But we're doing good. We're doing good. Hi, Aki. Thanks for joining. And we are multi-streaming to Twitch again today. Hi, if you've joined us on Twitch recently. I'm not super focused on the platform. I'm just trying out to see what happens organically without me really pushing anything there. So I'm not like cross-advertising and putting stuff on the YouTube saying go and follow me on Twitch. Just want to see what happens organically when I do stuff over there as well at the same time. Okay, we're going to check out Plentiful first. We're going to do Plentiful, then we're going to do Boogie Fungi, then we're going to do God Save the Creatures, and then we're going to do AAA Simulator. So Plentiful first. We're going to be putting some hexagons on a thing. I'm a big fan of a hexagon, but I do tend to think that hexagon maps work better when you're really zoomed out and you're not too close to the thing. I think when you're very close in, it starts feeling very, very artificial. They're good for simulating like abstract things like big continents and stuff. We're moving the camera with the WASD. We're rotating with the Q. We're looking around with the rumb. We're zooming with the mouse wheel. And once again, I've done exactly what I always do, and I had the Twitch chat up and not the multi-stream chat. So, hi, YouTube folks. Sorry if I didn't see you say hi earlier. I've been... Its restream is very cheeky. It defaults to the Twitch chat instead of the multi-stream. Blocks can be dragged with lumber. Move a couple of blocks. Moving a block costs moves. Your available moves are shown in the top right. Okay, so we've... Dry earth will absorb water and become wet. Okay, so we've got some kind of cool spatial puzzle jumping tiles over each other type thing. We've got a store up here. It's got to be an apple first, surely, so that I can... Should I put it on this suggestively shaped island? Really like that time lapse. The screen going black sometimes is the stream. It's basically whenever I try and click out of the game and do something else. Because I am doing multiple games in a stream, I tend to have to stream the entire display rather than the individual games, because otherwise I spend a lot of time farting around with Restream or OBS or whatever I'm using. Vegetables should be planted in a flat area. What is happening? This is doing itself now. I'd maybe speed that up a little bit. I get where you're going for there, but yeah. It looks like eggplants are in season right now. Okay. You have to cover them, put them under the ground. Okay. So far, what I'm getting with this is we've got a really nice core interaction of moving these hexes around, and the way that this has been sort of merged with the God Game theme is so far quite promising and very nice, and I'm quite impressed by what I've seen so far. I think some of the sound design needs a little bit of polish. There are quite a lot of very high, quite tinny sounds. Some of the ambient sounds, some of the like clicking sounds and stuff could just need a bit of the harsh edge taken off, I think, but that might just be because my headphones are so loud. Open the store one last time. A human! But can I put a human under the ground? Yes! Oh, she climbed out. They've thought of everything. The blue bar is the human's health. It will go down if the human has an empty belly. Reaching 0 is lethal. Okay, so the green bar is their food. Don't know what yellow or red is yet. They're not relevant. Okay, we'd start a new game. That's the tutorial. I think I might have clicked on the second level then. Oh no. Snake Pit, Oasis, Islands, Highlands, Bird Mountains. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the Snake Pit and then probably jump a few levels. We might miss something, but we're gonna go get some mushrooms, guys. We're going to Mushroom Land. I am your god, and I will take thee to the promised land, where there are fungus aplenty for you and your kin, and also your kith. I never know what people mean when they say kith and kin. Like, I know what kin is, but is kith just the same thing? In which case, why does it need to be in a list, kith and kin? Your people can only climb one block at a time. Build a path to get them to these mushrooms. Okay. So what it seems like is actually we've got an extended tutorial over multiple levels. And if that's the case, I wouldn't call level 1 the tutorial. I would call level 1 like the beginning or Genesis or something, because you've called level 1 tutorial and then this is still a tutorial. And you don't want to call them tutorial 1, tutorial 2. So I would just give the first level a chapter name, and we got some charming, quirky music. Ah, kin is family and kith is friends. That makes sense. I mean, that we've got 2 women in our tribe, and that's all that exists. Are they kith or are they kin? They're just really good friends. They're the only humans in the world, and they're just really good friends. They're roomies. Oh no, you can't. So they won't sort of path halfway. They'll wait until they can path all the way and then they'll go, which is fine. I think that makes the game less potentially confusing. Because if they were walking when they couldn't get there, we might have a less kind of clear... They're besties. Hashtag besties. What's this? It's a lovely pair. We want to get over there. We want because what we really want here is we want some dietary variation. And we don't want to just eat mushrooms. I'm a mushroom guy. I'm a big fan of an edible fungus. But occasionally, there are times in life when you want a pear instead of a fungus. I know that might be controversial, but I'm not afraid to speak the truth on this channel. Sometimes. Yeah, you're right, Aki, every fungus is technically edible. Right, sorry for the interruptions there, folks. I was just closing the door. We got some younglings. They're just small adults. I'd like to think that the full version of this will have proper child models. Because the small adults is not working for me, but hey, we've got some small people now. Don't eat that! That's the fruit of knowledge. You know what happens when you eat that? Stop it. Right. What now happens if I... Oh, there's a snake over there. There are 2 shelters here. Build a 3rd to complete the level. Okay. So I'm not sure if I've been told how to do that. Do I need to go back to the store? Breadcrumbs will lure your people to where you want them. They have no nutritional value and get increasingly expensive. That is a very neat idea. Because presumably at some point when developing this, they realized they needed some way to sort of control the people slightly more directly. A breadcrumb is a really nice metaphor for that. Because it just makes sense on a bunch of different levels. But I'm also not totally sure how I'm building a shelter. Is that a shelter? Is that what constitutes a shelter? Is having like a overhang? Yes, okay, she's sheltering in it. One of the bars... Does one of the bars go up for that? It's making like a campfire noise to show that she's in the shelter, but it's not actually... there's no actual campfire. So yeah, it's like this. There's a very uneven level of polish in this game, I would say. And I like what is here. But there are some sort of skimpy around the edges elements that... It's part of the problem with... Like, the more polished you make the overall game, the more it's going to stick out when something is kind of weird or missing. And we've got a bit of a mix here of stuff that is very sort of abstract and board gamey. And stuff that is very, like, polished looking and well lit. And, yeah, the kind of thing of having... Having stuff where we've got, like, a campfire sound, but no campfire is strange. Very small fry stuff, though. There we go. So I built a shelter there, and it's done this little lighting effect to show us it's a shelter. But yeah, it does need an actual campfire, because otherwise they just sit in here and it makes a campfire noise, which is yeah. Someone in the chat just said that shelter is $3,000 a month in New York City. In New York City. It's quite nice architecturally, though, isn't it? It's sort of Scandinavian brutalism, I think you'd call that. It's like brutalism, but with a slightly more organic edge. It's like the house in Ex Machina. You know? Oscar Isaac's going to come in a minute and start being scary, but kind of in a hot way. That's basically what that film is about. Why is she's completely isolated? Did I do that? Did I take away the bridge? I'm sorry. I'm sorry if scary Oscar Isaac took away your connection to the mainland. Yeah, there's someone just mentioned the chip rocks. There's loads of lovely detail here. There is loads and loads of lovely detail. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I left her on that island just popping out babies. There we go. There is our beautiful new civilization. I can finish the level now. We've built Lesbos. That's it, my children. Eateth mine apples. Eateth mine apples and grow strong in both body and conviction, so that you may one day invent men. So we get a kind of high score for like how quickly we completed that level. I'm going to do islands. I'm going to skip Oasis because we don't have loads of time. I'm going to spend like 20 minutes more on this maximum. It should really be 10, but I did waffle quite a lot at the beginning. I like this. The basic interaction is really kind of pleasant, and that's kind of what I look for a lot. Because I think if you can't nail that, then you should make a different kind of software that isn't video games. The kind of overall presentation is heading in a decent direction. It's kind of a weird mix of kind of plasticky toy-like looking stuff and then a few very realistic elements. I kind of feel like I almost want it to be a bit more flat and stylized because all the shiny... I don't know if this is an Unreal game. It's got Unreal game vibes, not sure. All the kind of shiny lighting effects and stuff feel a bit at odds with how plasticky and toy-like everything is. Have your humans collect the 5 pineapples on the map. Make sure there are some humans living near the pineapples, and they will pick them up. Okay. And yeah, the kind of interface isn't feeling great right now. I think just generally this is all a bit too bold, and this text is going too far over, but I'm not going to get into the minutiae of that right now. But I would say show the interface to people, get feedback on it, and look at good examples and analyze what they do. Right, where is my person? This is a big old map. One thing I like about this demo is we've seen some very different sort of kinds of levels, and that helps to show you the breadth of the game in terms of what it can do. The thing that I'm immediately worried about with this level is that we're going to be doing a lot of single clicks and drags to move stuff to get our peoples around. I'm going to restart that level just because I moved away from the person and I couldn't see a way to center back onto them. Yeah, it's not upsetting the camera, so maybe it's not an Unreal game. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to that. I don't care what people make games in. It's just one of those things that we've observed over the last year of doing this channel is that Unreal Engine games do tend to kill the camera, so the webcam. Where is my person? Oh, do I have to build a person? Yes, okay. Lo! And the first people did cometh to Pineapple Mountain, for they knew of its sweet bounty, and they wished to climb it. Yeah, you have to make people. And they did climb Pineapple Mountain, and they did quaff the juices of the spiky fruit. And then... And then they did find another Pineapple Mountain, where they did do the same thing again. For they were simple folk who liked repetitive tasks. Too far from other people? Uh-oh. So I'm having a bit of a navigational problem where I'm in one place and then... Okay, we had a little... Is that an icon that shows us where the shelter is? Okay, so... We need to lead that person in one of these directions. And it looks like that is the nearest one, so... This is actually how the Giant's Causeway was made, which is a beautiful rock formation between England and Ireland. And it was actually formed when a giant saw a pineapple and wanted to get to it. It's true. Come back next week for more geology facts. Stop having babies. We're not here to have babies. We're here to get that pineapple. You need to be more focused and resolute in your quest. We're all about getting that pineapple. Are you coming? Okay, she's not coming yet. Okay, so I think I might actually have to make some fruit happen to get them to come over gradually. Definitely getting a bit more kind of interesting in terms of the overall puzzle of the level that we've got happening. No. Okay. Okay, we'll keep building over that way. This music's a vibe. Yes, a lot of individual clicking to kind of complete this, which could get tedious. I don't know if the scale of this level is right for the kind of repetitiveness of that interaction. Because this, you know, billing your game as like a chilled game and then having this in it is maybe slightly misjudged. Yeah, exactly. Kind of just someone in the chat like said 4,000 moves. I mean, you use moves up as well by placing things. So I don't think it's intended that you would use all of your moves. What's that? That lava? I don't think it's intended that you would use every single one of your moves as a move. But I think in that case, they need to think a little bit more about their currency. Give it a bit more of a theme. Just be like divinity points or something. Holy MacGuffins. You've got 3,029 Holy MacGuffins. Oh no! Yeah, moving an entire layer at a time makes sense. So I would do sort of Control and Shift and click all of these, and then I would drag that whole set of 3 and move it in one go, and it could just cost 3 moves at once. And that would solve the problem, right? Move all 3 pieces at once. It doesn't break the economy because we still count it as 3 moves. Just casually walking past the dead child on the way to the pineapple. It's like a metaphor for life. Sorry, I'm going to say that about every game from now on. Because that's the thing people say, isn't it, when they play games? It's like a metaphor for life. It doesn't really matter whether it is or not. The great thing about life is it's so all-encompassing and multifaceted that anything can be a metaphor for it, which is nice. Eggplants are out of season. It's time to grow a little pumpkin. Pineapples are great. Pineapples contain the novel enzyme bromelain, which dissolves proteins and is good for joint pain and arthritis for some reason. Don't know if it makes your joints more malleable or something. It's also the reason why lots of people think they're allergic to pineapple, but they're not really allergic. They're just having a small reaction in their mouth because it sort of actually eats the meat proteins in your mouth as you're chewing it, which is why it has that kind of weird, it's like a fizzy feeling, like an intense fizzy feeling. It's actually because the bromelain is reacting with your mouth. A pineapple is a cluster of berries. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, pineapple eats you back. Exactly. That's what's cool about it. I think it's a food that should be respected. So, I'm going to hop on to the next game now because I think we've got a good idea of what's going on here. I really like this. I think it delivers very well on the premise and being a god game without a lot of the faff. Because I think there's a way of building something like a god game where you go down the route of making like a grand strategy 4X type game. And I think the thing that distinguishes a god game from those types of games is the indirectness of control. And we've got that here. We've got like a basic character AI that we can learn quite easily. And then our interactions with the terrain and building the world lead the AI to do relatively predictable things, and that makes the kind of puzzle element of, like, you know, trying to move the characters around the map and collect particular things sort of reasonably easy to execute on. I do think this level is scaled too big, but I also think that having a way of moving a whole layer of things at once would solve that. And it could also be really satisfying. Like if I took these off So I had a bigger layer like this, and I could pick that up in one go, and then say I drop it there, and the pieces fall, and some of them fall a bit deeper than the others, and that costs me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many moves in one go. I think that would just solve a big potential problem with these larger levels, because I understand wanting to have this grand scale of an epic journey around all this stuff, but achieving that by doing this 4,000 times, or even 1,000 times, is I don't know. It's just not very nice to people in terms of their fingers and their time. But you can play Snake with it. You can go. Get in, guys. We're playing Hexagonal Snake. Oh, crap. Snake's eating itself. Ouroboros. I'm a pineapple pizza guy, but I understand why people don't like it. But also, ham and pineapple was always a thing in the UK, sort of after the war. It was one of those things that was like, hey, we've got food again. Let's put weird things together. Type meals. You would have some gammon and a ring of pineapple on it. So it never seemed like a weird combination of things to me as a kid, because we just always had that as, you know, something you would have with chips or potatoes and peas or whatever. Have we got anyone who can translate from Spanish? Because I cannot understand this, which will make it an interesting experience. I'm not going to try and read this out because I'm going to sound like Peggy Hill. Let me just see what my spreadsheet says about this one. I've been working on this game for a few months, 5 months, about almost full time, and now I'm finding its personality. So any advice or feedback would be highly recommended, highly welcomed. Sorry. And Caramba is the online name of the developer. I like the look of this already. I don't know how easily I'm going to be able to play it without it being in English, unfortunately, because I am a uncultured swine and I only know one language. It didn't look like there was a language setting in the menu, but we'll see. So I've got a resource which is this, which looks like bubbles, but I think is spores. We've got cost of things. Tronco pequeño is a small trunk. Tronco grande is a big trunk. A semi-enterrado tronco, I think, is partly buried. Caído, broken, maybe. Tocon, stump. It's got a multiplier for skeleton faces. And a multiplier for the time of incubation for the honguitos. I don't know what honguitos are, but I like the idea of them. I like them in principle. These are maderas. Is that wood? Wood, grass, or ground? These are like ground blocks. It's tricking me into... Yeah, this is already the best Spanish learning app I've found. So what I'm going to do is... Oh, look, we've got... These unlock with spores. So we've got some sort of economy thing where you use spores to build stuff, then you earn more spores, and then eventually you use spores to unlock bigger things, because you need 10,000 esporas here. Yeah, we don't. I'm gonna have to just do my best to play this in Spanish. I really should have checked this before, but I guess I just made the assumption that someone wouldn't send a game that I fundamentally couldn't play. Okay, we're getting some educational stuff about mushrooms, which I like. This is because, like, I think when games try to just be purely educational, nah, like I'd rather read a book or watch a video. But a game where someone has made a game that is an actual game and then just gone sicko on the research or putting their kind of special interest hobby into the thing so that it's got all of this additional stuff about how mushrooms work. Big fan of that. Big fan of that. Yeah, Aki in the chat said it's the ultimate game design test if it can be played without the language. That's pretty good. Yeah, and already it seems like we've got quite a good visual language for things like the currency and stuff. We're sort of also doing a limited palette, which means that the currency doesn't pop out very well. So I would think about that a little bit. And, you know, sometimes when you want to do limited palette games, it sort of hurts the UX a little bit. Like, I guess if you can imagine the spores being like a orangey salmon color, they would stand out here and then they would stand out here and it would still fit the overall palette. You're not introducing a green or a red or something really bold that's not already there. But let's just start building some stuff. So what I'm going to do. Yeah, I've got a Nuevo Cuidador. I've got one of those. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. Yes. Yes. Research? Maybe? It's a scroll. So I'm trying to make a little kind of circle. I declined it. I hate it when I accidentally reshaza when I don't mean to. I'm gonna, this time, little moustache mushroom guy, I'm gonna seleziona sustrato instead of recharging it. Fuego, I would love you to translate, but it is kind of oddly interesting to just try and play it. I remember trying to play, I think my brother did actually manage to play it, but we had like a Pat Labor game on a SNES emulator, and it was in Japanese, and we would just try and play it anyway. And that was harder than this. This is a little bit more intuitive. Okay, so a mushroom is getting filled up. I mean, yeah, the thing is, if you start with having a kind of conversation in the chat about educational games and how to do them, and I think it depends on who is buying the thing, because if you're selling to the player, whether that's a kid or an adult, whoever it is, if you're selling it to the player, then they want it to be fun first and foremost. But if you're selling it to like a school or a parent, then it needs to have the educational credentials sorted out. And it's going to have to do both of those things well regardless. But I do think front loading the education, I don't know, it's going to have a different impact depending on where you're positioning the thing, where you're selling it, all of that kind of stuff. I honestly think if you have something you want to teach kids about, you should make it in Roblox. Not a Steam game. But as an adult's game, fine. Ah, here you are, finally. The Rebuzuelo. Are you we're gonna do some, this is the nutrients symbol. But I don't have any nutrients. I'm sorry, I don't have any nutrients for you. Okay. So, this mushroom is our construction mushroom. And this mushroom is our sort of hiring mushroom that makes the other mushrooms show up. So we use this one to spend spores to build our mushroom garden. And we use this one to choose which of these is going to grow some new dudes. I'm glad that you got some teaching value out of rhythm games. I've always struggled a bit with rhythm games because I feel like they don't really capture what is cool about making music. And there's obviously a place for them and everything. And I had a lot of fun with Rock Band back in the day. I had Rock Band 3 that was the one that came with the MIDI keyboard and had a lot of the 80s keyboardy stuff on. But yeah, I just always felt like there needs to be more to music-themed games than just obeying some tablature that is rushing at you on the screen. Hoof. Who's this? Ah. Oh. See, that's your problem. You got Falton Defensus. That's his problem. He's got Falton Defensus. I hate when my Defensus gets all Falton. You, sir, are perhaps the Faltonist of them all. He's asleep. It says he's asleep. He wants to have a fiesta. That's a nap, isn't it? People refuse to accept when I'm being deliberately ignorant for a comedic effect. No, a siesta is a nap. A fiesta is a party. Yes, I know. Those are the two Spanish words that all gringos know. Come on. So this is party stuff? This is like, what is this? Is this like decorative? Yeah, the party frog. Of course. We love it when the party frog comes along. Look, I haven't finished my little ring yet. I want a bit more. We haven't got a sunken one of these yet. Wonderful. Okay. And we haven't got a Monton de Paya either. What are you up to, mate? We're going to make one of them? Ah, no hay. Oh, esos molestos recolectores. Yeah, I know the feeling. I know the feeling, dude. How do we get la nutrientes? That's a good question. How do I get la nutrientes? I can make this bar go up and down. I can turn the daylight on and off. Do I need to turn the light off to make them make nutrientes? They giggle when you select them. Look. Uh-oh, who's this? No! No! Oh, this is taking a turn for the worse. I didn't know this was a horror game. Oh. Oh, that happened because I had Fulton Defensus. Man. If only there was something about the phrase Fulton Defensus that could have given me a clue as to what it meant. Which ones are defenses then? They're upset. Their mate got eaten. One of the things I would seriously look into with this is making the music procedural. I don't think it is at the moment. We're getting a very simple loop over and over again. And when I say procedural, I don't even really mean procedural. I mean having like 12 layers of music and turning them up or down depending on what you build, which is like the simple way to do some sort of procedural music in a indie game when you don't have much time or budget. Because this music is very, very repetitive for a game that is relatively slow. Hello. That's a very sort of coquettish looking mushroom. Yeah. I have a kind of rough idea how to do layered music, but it's mostly when you compose it, you deliberately break it into layers and then you render them all out as separate files, and then you need to make sure that they're exactly the same length so that they loop together. You can do stuff that's more complicated than that, but this mushroom that's Lana Del Rey, but as a mushroom. Putting a mushroom on the log. That's a first. Yeah, my Game Maker game has some very, very, very lazily done music that's just 3 layers that I fade in and out. Yeah, maybe the Fiesta does wake up your defenses, but I can't get it to trigger. I really like the way that the all of the menus are related to a character like this. It's quite a nice way of adding character into a game when you're mostly interacting with an interface. Hace nutrientes. I think these both hace nutrientes, which is maybe a good thing that we need to happen. So I'll put one of these here. Oh, I think we can get nutrientes now. From this. But we don't have enough spores. Esporas. Good luck, Cog. Have a good day. Yeah. We're not doing just God games today. That was the theme I really wanted to go for, but we just didn't have enough. I think it might be a genre of game that people just work on for years and years, tweaking and twiddling with things and ending up in the perpetual early access type thing. Yeah, go home. Leave us alone. Nivel de Honguito. I'm going to move on to the next game because I cannot fathom enough of this to be able to play it. But I love the art style. The music fits but is too repetitive. The general premise of the game is really, really charming. It feels very well designed from a UX, UI point of view. Like, I can see all of the UI working very well if I could read it. And none of this is overloaded in terms of text. There's just never too much on screen to think about at once, which is very, very good for a game like this. But I can do a fiesta, so we can close with the fiesta. They do a special little light up thing. Just need to screenshot this. So I have a friend who is actually a mycologist. I'm just going to send it to a screenshot of that to him in WhatsApp with no explanation. Yeah, the UI is lovely. I really like the idea of having a character for each function of the game, because otherwise it would just feel very sort of impersonal. It's kind of like what they do in SimCity with the advisors, but just like linking them really directly to a menu works very well. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I'm just going to send that over to my mycologist friend. Not letting me... It's even better because WhatsApp is not letting me type into it, which means I really cannot provide any context. My favourite mushroom is also frogs. So, next two games we've got today, and sometimes in this, if this is your first time popping into this Thursday stream, Indies Under the Knife, sometimes you do a longer stream on a single game in this slot. But today I just had a weird grab bag of things that looked cool, but I didn't know if they were going to be enough to do a longer stream with. So we're doing a selection of games that is loosely linked by theme. Yeah. So the screenshots are in English, did you say? So maybe it's one of those things where they've added stuff to the main game and... Very strange. Hey, Spalato. Nice to see you. I think I've got one of your games in my queue, haven't I? I noticed it the other day. I saw you guys on there. We're going to check out God Save the Creatures and we're going to check out AAA Simulator. Both God games of a sort. I don't think this is a conventional God game. It is a top-down puzzle, kind of Lemmings, Choo-Choo Rocket type thing. I like these kind of things because they are a game that naturally lends itself to failure being fun. And I think if you're going to have a hard game where you're doing the same thing over and over again, you need the failure to be kind of an amusing thing in its own right. And I think maybe that's what we're going to get with God Save the Creatures. Thank you for being part of our prototype playtest. This build is for evaluating gameplay mechanics and gathering feedback. We're collecting anonymous gameplay data to help us develop the game. No personal data is stored or collected. Better not be. I'm serious. If I play this game and then the FBI get a report on how I was cruel to the creatures or something like that. I'm not going to be best pleased. How to play. Keep enough creatures alive until the timer ends. Hazard needs help. Oh, I found we can do this as well, can't we? We can do the magnifier. Oh. Hazard needs help. Imminent death. Power to save it. So I'm a god of rocks. I can control the world through the power of rocks. And okay, I've got powers I can select. There's number shortcuts to select them. I place things on the grid. I hold spacebar to activate slow motion. Cool. This is pretty okay for a demo to do things this way. It's not totally overloaded. It's maybe getting there. I think stuff like this, powers can be placed on the grid before start or in real time. This stuff that is purely in text and is a little bit more contextual is a bit like, yeah, I don't know what that means yet, so you may as well not be telling me that. If you look at Overcooked, the cookery game about stuff being overcooked by some cooks, look at the way that does its tutorials. It is literally just, it's one of these big kind of flash screens, but it is just images and arrows. And I think if you're making a game that is this simple, and I think this is going to be reasonably simple, then the way it presents its tutorial needs to follow suit. So there's stuff here where it's like, I do not know what this means yet. I do not have the context for this. So telling me that at this point is not going to be helpful. Okay. I have rock power. I have 1 rock power. Nice. Next level. Okay, so when I've only got 1 power, it doesn't auto-select it. I have to actually select it to... I guess that's fine. I guess that's going to teach us some good habits. And then because the timer only lasts for 4 seconds, they're not going to get to the next ones. I like it. It's cute. It's kind of giving Lemmings and Choo Choo Rocket and stuff like that. I'm a fan of games where you try to stop idiots from dying. It's a good... I mean, surely here I can just do that. Yeah. What's going on with you, mate? Oh, he's got a countdown. But he's going to bump into the other ones, and they're going to... Oh. Okay, interesting. I want to do that one again. There's some depth here. We're getting some depth. So actually, what I want to do is squash that one, block that one, and then... I like it. I already like what I'm seeing here. That's good. I mean, the tutorial was only 2 pages. I stopped on it for a long time to talk about it. But there was just stuff on there that you don't need to know straight up. You just need to be wary of like how much you're front-loading information that doesn't actually make sense at that stage. Okay, if I do that, they will both bounce back into the things they're facing away from and die. So if I do that, I think... Oh, but they're going to bounce into each other, aren't they? Mate. I keep forgetting to select the power. I think it should probably have one selected by default, but I could also see the logic of training the player to press the button. Yes! Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to do that. Ugh. Yeah, there's going to be 4 powers, I think, based on what we saw from the kind of context clues earlier. Can you reuse a rock? No, they just fall and then they're used. This one is a bit of a brain... What's it? I can't quite work out how you're supposed to do this with just 2. Ah, I've got it, I've got it. We're gonna let this guy get there and then put one there. Maybe that's it. No. That's not it. That's not it. Okay, so we don't need to do this one because they bounce into each other and ricochet off. So we're going to put one here and then we're going to put one here and hopefully they'll bounce together again. It's something like that. Yes. It does make me think that... So we've got an interesting type of puzzle here. It's the type of puzzle where you have to actually let the puzzle run to see how everything works. It's kind of like those old those games where you had a contraption. It was like Marvelous Machine or something. That's not what it's called. But these, like, you had a contraption from the side and you put bits together and then you ran it and it all played out. Scribblenauts had similar stuff as well. And I think there could be an issue of speed with these when they get more complicated. Because if you have to actually run it to see if your solution to the puzzle works and then drop things into it midway, and they're too slow, it's going to get quite annoying. So we'll see how that develops. He's going to hit that very quickly. This guy can do what he wants. So in this and this one are in the most peril, but maybe they're going to bounce. So not sure. So all of the little delays on their times feel a bit contrived. It makes it feel like the level is very like, okay, they're going to wait a certain amount of time before they move. They're going to bounce off each other. And that means that I sort of have to watch it play out and then do stuff based on their time delays. It makes the level design feel a little bit too contrived for me, I think. Oh, that one's got spikes on. Okay. So I'm not allowed to let them touch. Yeah. Silazi, I was thinking the same thing. If they had, like, some differentiator so that the fact that they have these time differences made sense. But it just makes it feel a bit contrived. It makes it feel very much like, oh, it works this way because it needs to for the puzzle. And that doesn't really help with, like, making the player, i.e. me, feel smart, which is what you need out of a puzzle game. Is it? Are they going to make it? He survived slightly longer than the other one. I don't know why that was the case. I can see how to do this one. Okay, so I let them go in there and then trap them. Very cute though. Like the interaction design is nice. Art, sound, all nice. Gonna just keep saying the word nice. There's a coin there to get. Yeah, boy, get that coin. Currency acquired. Yeah. Not my favorite type of puzzle generally when there's like a very specific solution. I mean, there's at least 2 solutions to these puzzles because the coins are there to kind of give you a stretch goal for the level. But yeah, kind of. I do prefer sandboxy puzzles like Zachtronics games and stuff compared to like there is one solution. I really struggle with soccer band puzzles as well. So I always like the idea of them, and then when I'm doing them, it's just my brain is like, no, this is painful. Kill you. It's very gory for what it is. The coins don't do anything as far as I can tell. They might do something, but we haven't had anything to do with them. I think they're more like a prestige thing for completing the levels on the harder, doing the harder solution to the level, which is a good idea in a game like this. Right, you are going to hurt anyone you touch. And I think... Okay, so we maybe don't need to put anything behind him. So we need somewhere for him to go at the start. We need to basically make this runway long enough that this guy can carry on walking forward and then this guy can just pass by him. I think that's what we need to do here. So if I just do that, if the time limit's long enough that he doesn't get to actually go back to the spiky bush, then we're all right. He got back to the spiky bush. So maybe we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know why that would make any difference. He's just going to get killed by that guy instead. These assets could fit well in a colony sim. Yeah, they could. I think that's a good example of like they've done this game and they could use these to make a game in the same IP that's a different game. Yeah, it would be a good game to have a level editor for. Hazard Pay. One of our community members making a Hazard Pay, which is like a soccer barn where you dispose of bodies and stuff, and that has a level editor. And he was saying the community's games are the community's levels for it are just way beyond anything he would make, and just completely like, how? How? But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of having to just run the thing and try it over and over again, I guess. That works for me in a Zachtronics game because I guess it doesn't just lead to a fail state. And this is just like, I mean, I've already tried that. I've tried that solution already, so I know that doesn't work. Maybe if we can make the spiky dude go the opposite way. Ah. Oh, if there was a way to block that when he's... Okay, I think I've got it. I need to be able to block this middle space. There. There we go. Yeah. I like it when they bounce off each other. I also think it would be maybe we need a little wall around the edge just to make it a little bit more intuitive that they're not going to fall off. I guess you learn that rule pretty quickly, but okay, now we're getting some full-blown choo-choo rocket stuff now. So he's going to wait 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I think you can use these number delays to work the thing out without running it. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this one is going to go 1, 2, 3. Oh, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So if I do that, will that work? Yeah. Okay. So having the number delays as a readout does help you play the game, I guess. No. So we've got 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we've got... okay, you've put another power over here. Is there like a particular interface where that would be helpful to have them spread out like that? Is that like a Steam Deck thing or something? I'm not sure about that. 1, 2, 3. So I've got one of each. So if I were to put that there and that there, then this one would be safe because they would just bounce between these. And this guy... What's going on with him? Just do that. There we go. Don't care about the coin today. Oh, so long waits on these. This guy... Again, it's just I'm having the soccer band problem now of like it's just getting too brain melty for me. I like games where you think very hard, but because you're thinking very hard, I don't know, maybe it's just like a psychological thing with me. But when you're thinking very hard to just come up with the solution to a thing rather than reading a situation and coming up with your own solution, it's just like there is a solution. I find that inherently unsatisfying in a way that I can't quite understand. And I know it's not universal because I know people do play these kind of puzzle games. And I'm just trying to pinpoint why I personally struggle with them so much. It might be a certain amount of like a kind of obedience issue. Of like, kind of like I said about rhythm games earlier. Like rhythm games are really just... Like, they're not even a game by some definitions of games. They're just a challenge of like, can you do this thing? You're not really making decisions. You just can execute the thing or not. And puzzle games of this nature are like the cerebral version of that. Whereas with a rhythm game, it is just, can you react and press these buttons at the right time? And then certain types of puzzle games are like, can you work out the exact thing that I've decided you need to do to solve this thing? And that's really what a puzzle is. That's what a pure puzzle is. It has one right solution. And there is just something about... And I'm not saying this as game design feedback. I'm just trying to pinpoint why I don't like them. And I think for me, it maybe is an obedience thing that like when I play games, I'm sort of trying to get away from that. I'm trying to get away from wanting to, being in a situation where I need to do what someone else tells me to do. I don't know. I can't quite grasp why both of those types of games are very different. A rhythm game and like a Sokoban or a very single solution puzzle game are very different, but maybe there is something psychologically similar about them in the fact that you really just have to do what you're told to. You have to do what the game wants you to do. And there's no leeway in that. It's just that is how there is one solution and that's how you do it. Or maybe if you're lucky, there's two solutions. This might have three solutions because we have 2 coins. We have 2 bonuses we can get for doing this the right way, but they're still pre-programmed. The developer has decided you need to do this thing type stuff. So I struggle with it. It's an interesting thing to reflect on. Maybe you have similar things in your own kind of gaming repertoire that you just don't gel with, and I think it's always helpful to think about why that is. Why is it that thing turns you off so bad? Because I think you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to do that without just making a judgment of like, oh, this is a bad thing. This thing, I don't like this thing because it's bad. It's not a good way of articulating your tastes or what is going on with your tastes. Ultima owns. Yeah, I've played Humanity as well. I found that game is quite funny. That is a lot more like Lemmings, because the thing about Lemmings is you do have a bunch of different ways you can solve the level. So with Lemmings, it is much more like a resource management thing. And yeah, maybe there's definitely more than one way to solve these levels, but they're still very, very rigidly logical in a way that I personally don't find I don't find it enjoyable to try and deduce these types of puzzles. And to sort of work out how you do them. Okay, so that guy can actually just stay trapped. That's not really a problem if he just stays bouncing back and forth there. Yeah, again, I'm not saying it's wrong to have a single solution puzzle. I'm just trying to work out why I personally don't like them, which is a different thing from saying it's a bad thing. Trying to work out what my own kind of psychological reason for not liking them is, which is a thing. I think it's a thing you need to be able to do as a game designer. I think it's to be able to understand your own frustrations and articulate them. Because being able to do that then allows you to understand and articulate what you're trying to do when you're trying to do a thing you do like, right? It's all the same skill set of being able to, because what most people do when it comes to matters of taste and preference is they do not get that introspective about it. They just tend to go, I don't like that band because that's bad music. And I'm really not saying that people shouldn't express a subjective thing in objective language. I think that's a really tedious line of argument when people do that, when they're like, oh, you said this was bad and you should have just said I don't like this because it's just your opinion. That's not really what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, in order to be good at design and be able to do the analytical part of it, you need to be able to separate those things. I don't really require that everyone in the world doesn't use objective language to describe their opinions. I'm just saying that if you do that and you never break out of that, you will maybe not be as good at kind of creative work, because you need to be able to empathize with different sorts of people and understand what makes people like or dislike things. I'm going to stop playing that now, because that level in particular is just getting me to a point where I cannot be bothered to think about it anymore. And I'm sure there was a solution staring me right in the face, but it wouldn't have given me any joy to try and work it out. We're going to check out AAA Simulator as our last game on this stream. The game industry is a roguelike, is it? What does it say here? I'm just going to check the note I was sent with this one. A satire that tears into the follies of the AAA games industry in Balatro-like studio builder form. But Balatro-like here meaning the mechanics borrowed from the roguelike shopping of Balatro, not the genre, although the genre is casino roguelike influenced. Okay. It's a two-person team. One of the developers said they have an oddly similar background to me. They have a doctorate in cultural studies, same as me. Spent some time designing in the games industry. I'd say people seem to like the concept of AAA Simulator once I'm able to hook them in, but the hooking them in part has been a challenge. Maybe you have advice about that part regarding branding, marketing, or how whether I need to change something about the onboarding, learning curve mechanics, or something else. I'm working on a demo for June Next Fest. Sorry, too late. So I'm hoping to really refine it before then. I'm a narrative designer and writer by trade. My coding is self-taught and okay. My art sound are probably my biggest weaknesses. Thank you for any help that you might be able to give. So we've got someone who has done some work in games, which is a good start because I think this theme immediately makes me feel defensive because I don't know. I can see why people want to lay into the games industry and specifically AAA studios, but I think a lot of the time that comes from quite a bad place and ends up being aimed at the developers rather than the publishers and people who are really kind of causing the problems. So I'm always a bit wary of it because I see, I get all the same YouTube recommendations that you do, and I see a lot of underinformed people raging about the games industry and stuff. So anything that is kind of designed to bait that makes me feel a bit wary because we very quickly get into the space of just like, people that have never done anything of merit in their life complaining about people that work very, very hard not doing their jobs well enough. And I find that a bit tiresome. It's not even a game-specific thing. It could be any industry. When you've got a bunch of people that have never tried to make anything, kind of going, everyone over there is lazy and bad and doing a bad job, it just irks me quite a bit. But we've got a game critiquing the games industry made by someone who's worked in games. So we might have a bit more to it then. The art style doesn't really grab me right off the bat. This kind of reminds me of like something that would be used. It's very clip arty. It reminds me of something that would be used in like a party card game, not Cards Against Humanity because that doesn't have illustrations, but like Exploding Kittens or something like that. It feels a bit cheap, and I guess that's maybe okay because we are going down this route of it being a pastiche, a parody. But it does kind of make the whole thing look a bit cheap. And I don't even know if it's the style so much. I think you could probably fix it with some palette changes and kind of being a bit more thoughtful about the palette and stuff. But those are my gut reactions to what I can see on Steam, what I can get about the vibe of the game before I've even played it. And then let's check out what the actual gameplay is because it might be a bit more nuanced than it's presenting itself to be initially. Play the tutorial. We've got some banging techno. Name your studio. Annoying hipster games. Welcome to Annoying Hipster Games, a subsidiary of Phlegrium Water Co. Good. Okay, good starting gag. Like it. Your family members on the board have set you up for success, so start making games. And don't forget to meet that quarterly profit goal or you're fired. Quarterly profits gives us a nice, clear, like, lose condition and timeline for everything. We can't coast on the studio's previous releases forever. You should name our next game. I definitely want to be able to do this. In Game Dev Story, my favorite thing was naming the games and like having genre mixes and then naming the games in a particular way so that the game sounded terrible was my favorite part of that game. Cared about that more than the strategy stuff. So name your game. Divorce Simulator. Simulator 3. Confirm. Pick your genre. Lobster shooter, battle royale, roguelike, western, open world game, MOBA. I think Divorce Simulator 3 should be a MOBA. Because if you think about it, it could be like you've got the two teams and they're getting divorced and it's like lawyers. The lawyers are running out into the lanes and like taking the car. It's like capture the flag with items from the other person's possessions. Hey kiddo, excited to run your first game studio with your dad on the board of directors? It should be easy. This music is really grating. It would be okay in a pure arcade game, but having this music running while you're trying to get someone to read something is not a good look, I would say. So I would think... I'm very, very sensitive to this. I've complained about it on streams before, but if you are wanting me to read a paragraph of text and you're doing something annoying with the auditory part of the game, it's not a good mix of things, and I won't be the only person that has that problem. This isn't a tycoon game. The CEO doesn't decorate and paint walls. You'll just be doing two things, making games and making money. How do I make money? Okay. Each turn you'll perform your duties, manage events, shop in the labour market, buy office upgrades. Each turn you'll handle at least one event. Sometimes there's a choice with consequences. Try it. Okay. Hire 10 employees. Okay. Next, you'll want to maintain your network using the labour market. It only comes once per turn. Okay. Each turn, the labour market is randomly generated. Hire my friend here. His hiring cost is free, but you'll still have to pay his salary. Now he'll give 20% to max sales each turn as long as you don't fire him. Okay. This one is a favour. A one-time consumable that can help you out. Buy this one and we'll use it later. Close the shop. Okay, if we're done here, why have you put this here? It says we're done here and you've put that there. There's some bad FTU design going on here. So basically, I haven't got to the point yet where we can see the game, but it feels like a lot of work has gone into this first time user experience. There is way too much trying to grab my attention at any given time. So if you're going to do this thing of like blacking out the background, do it to this, the board in the corner, do it to this. All of this stuff around the edge is not relevant to what I need to know at this point of the game. Introduce it more gradually. You can do that by hiding it with the vignette, or you can do it by literally hiding it until it becomes relevant and important. Because there is a very small subset of gamers that has like a complexity fetish and they like to see all this stuff and go, oh, look at all this stuff. Most of the time, that is not what people want. And you are better off just hiding a UI element until a certain flag is triggered and then showing it at that point. At the moment, this is so visually noisy that the tutorial is telling me one thing, saying focus here. Oh, we're done here now, click here. And then there's all this other stuff that is just vying for my attention that doesn't need to be here yet. Art department. Next upgrade. Microtransaction artists. Artists produce money instead of labor. Oh, okay. Each coder... So I can skip through the rooms, which are the departments, and then I can upgrade. Buy the micromanagement upgrade. I'll show you how to use it in a minute. During the labor calculation, click to boost labor of employees within the micromanagement radius by 1.5. Yeah, the really simple visual design rule is that movement is like the highest thing up the information hierarchy in terms of like grabbing your attention. So you've got like if you think of all the static things, you're designing a poster. Forget about a game. You're designing a poster for a show. You've got contrast. You've got relative size, you've got texture. All of these things are things that grab your attention, and some of them grab your attention more than others. If you then introduce movement, that is like the most attention grabbing thing. And having something in the corner that is moving that is not that important is silly. There are ways to do it, but if it would be like having the thing moving but having it very low contrast or something like that. At the moment, I can't really concentrate on what is going on in the kind of diegetic game world because of this. So I can click on rooms, I can upgrade them. Cool hangout area. A triangle might not be the best seat, but it sure looks like we have fun here. Adds hype, adds labor, reduces morale. Interesting. You can hire and find. I think a lot of this as well, it's incredibly text heavy. I get that there is supposed to be a jokey element to this game, but there are also elements of like the interface design that feel like a joke. I can't really put it more kindly than that. If I click through some of these things, it's just there's too much stuff here. I'm going to actually turn the music off because it's so annoying. And I get that you're trying to make it funny because we're going kind of South Park humor here, but come on. Right, music turned off. Thanks, Owens. Have a good day. Right, so let's take a look at what the upgrades do. I think this is a bit too text heavy, and we should have symbols for these things. Whenever you have resources in a game and you don't use symbols instead of text, it generally, like, first off, it just comes across as a bit lazy, and second off, it just slows. Second off, that's not a thing. Secondly, it slows down your ability to read the thing, right? People read like symbols, like colors and shapes, way quicker than they read words, and then numbers are sort of in the middle. We can read numbers reasonably quick. A word is way slower to read than a number. A sentence way slower than a word, and symbols are just very cheap in terms of like the player's cognitive load. So I feel like all of this stuff, it should be smiley face plus 10. I don't know what label would be, like a pickaxe. I don't know, something. Pickaxe plus 10, smiley face plus 10. What that means is that, I mean, you've done some good practice here. Like we've got the flavor text being in an italic so that we know that it's flavor text, and that's kind of good. But I would have symbols for these things because you seem to want this game to be kind of fast-paced and casino-y. I think the representation of it being a real place is maybe going to harm that a little bit because it does lead to it feeling like a theme hospital type game. And you've said at the beginning of the game, oh, this isn't a game where you paint the walls and stuff like that, but presenting this top-down view makes it feel like one of those. So one of the things that I think you have to learn, this is true of games, it's true of making YouTube videos, it's true of nearly everything, is no amount of adding a caveat at the beginning will remove the problems later on. Like, I get this all the time with my videos. I will leave a caveat at the beginning saying, this is not a video about this, blah, 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 and people still have a problem with that thing that I caveated. And it's very much the same for a game. You can warn people of something up the top and say, look, you might think this is this type of game, but it's actually this type of game. But if it still looks like a particular type of game, people will still go in with that expectation. So when I see this like physical representation of a real space, and then you say, well, actually, it's like a Balatro thing, that feels less like a legitimate reason and more like a cop-out. It's like, oh, we wanted to represent the physical studio, but we don't really want to do like micromanagey adding in a vending machine here and building a table here. Yeah, it's like having that defense up front doesn't work. And Aki in the chat just said the same thing. Yeah. This is my first game, please be nice. People do that as well. Yeah, impenetrable defense to all game design problems. It doesn't work. People don't respond to caveats because when they give you feedback, they're responding to the experience they have with the game, and a message at the beginning of the game is not part of that experience. That it doesn't change how the rest of the game makes them feel. I'm going to just upgrade some random crap because I don't really know what's going on. So I can click on random people. Produces money instead of labor. That's good. Design. Produces money instead of labor. So all of the people are producing labor. And like I haven't even really got to the point where I understand. Okay, there's a turn-based thing and the next turn is down here. Okay. Let's use that favor we bought. Okay, favors can help improve your stats. Use the cost tooltip to see how much employee salaries are costing you. How are those two pieces of information related to each other? Use the internship favor to lower your salary costs. Okay. All employees have the same starting salary, so don't think too hard. Just try. For some reason, I thought I could drop her into the costs. Select 5 employees to reduce their salary. So this is kind of a fun bit of... that was a fun bit of kind of interactive dark humor of just picking the people out. Yeah, next turn is generally, you know, unless you're making a game for a right to left language, we usually have next turn on the right. Now labor is being calculated. These dots mean the employees are doing work this turn. Blue labor goes towards games. Green labor is money produced by marketers or other abilities. Time for our secret weapon. Clicking a working employee to use micromanagement upgrade and make them work faster. Okay. I like that. That's a neat effect. Not sure why it's so arcadey when we've got this kind of clip arty art style everywhere else, but we'll do it anyway. Good work, kid. Just go easy. You could push them to burnout. As long as they're happy, they'll make great games. Hey, how are we getting along? Listen, I just want to give you a little advice. Take what your dad says with a grain of salt. Having your aunt and your father on the board of the parent company can definitely have its perks, but we can't protect you from everything. Nothing matters except your quarterly profits. If the board and I aren't happy, you're fired. Remember that quarterly profits are different from your money total. Your quarterly profits are negative because you spent money on a favor and an upgrade, remember? We want 3 solid years of profit from you. That's 8 quarters. You can check the graph to see if your monthly profits are on track. Okay. Right, I still don't really understand the flow of the game. I think we've had a lot of direct tutorialization of stuff, and I think it feels a little bit like the tutorial is trying to stand in for stuff being just intuitive in its own right. So, like, if you think of the favor card that I just did, I had a card and I could use it to do a particular thing, but then none of the other interactions are based on cards, you know? The other interactions are based on going around, finding a room, clicking on it, upgrading it. It's a very mixed bag of what I do to interact with the world. And when we played, probably going to end up doing a whole video on this. What was it called? Netcrawl. So last week when I was playing Netcrawl, one of the things I thought that was really, really very, very positive about this game is that we had a really rich decision space to interpret in the game, But the actual interaction that I as a player had to do in order to do anything in the game was very, very simple. And I think there's this kind of tug of war when you design interactions in games between these things, where if you have a very complex situation that the player needs to read and respond to, you don't then want to make the interactions fiddly, right? And the opposite end of the spectrum would be like Street Fighter or Dark Souls, where you actually have quite a complex moveset of interactions you can put into the game, but the situation that you're reading on the screen is very simple. You can focus on one thing. You're fighting one enemy or you're fighting a group of enemies, and you've got a little bit of like spatial awareness, situational awareness. But generally speaking, the complexity is in the controls that you're using, not in the situation. And then in a very complex, puzzly, thinky, mechanical game, there is so much kind of complexity on the game board that you want the interactions that the player does to be really simple and intuitive. And the thing that makes this game particularly strong is it is brain-meltingly hard, the way that these bosses and scenarios are designed. But all you are ever doing as a player is just choosing which tile to go on to next. Now, those have loads of secondary effects, like when you trigger a tile, different tiles trigger in different ways, and you have to learn all that, and that adds to the complexity. But the interactional complexity is incredibly low. So it's kind of like there's a budget of where the complexity can be. Is it in the player interaction, or is it in the situation that the player needs to read and react to? And one of the problems I'm having with this game is we are 10 minutes in. I know I've done a lot of talking. We're 10 minutes in, but I don't really have a good sense of what the basic interactions that I can, as a player, can do. We had a favor down here that I could just sort of play and it would do whatever. And then we've got interactions where I click on a room and I have an upgrade down here. And then we have the ability to fire people. And it's all a different kind of set of things. And I feel like it could be simpler than that. And I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure. I think maybe it's the top-down view is kind of leading us to certain types of interaction design decisions that are just not making this game as simple as it wants to be. Because all of the blurb we got at the start was like, this is going to be Balatro, but running a game studio. We made some profit. Experimental psychologist. Okay, fine. I don't want all of this tutorial advice telling me how to run the company. I get that it is some of the story, but I basically, the tutorial should tell me how to interact with the game, give me a very loose sense of the goals, and then leave me alone. Because every time the tutorial is kind of giving me strategic advice of like, oh, don't spend money too early, it's not letting me learn that for myself. And that seems to be fundamentally like not understanding what happens when someone learns a game, which is you let them fail a little bit. And then after they failed, you tell them why they failed. But don't keep preempting their failure and going, oh, don't be careful. Yeah, don't spend too much. It's really irritating. And again, I haven't got into a flow of interacting with the game yet that makes me want to just do the game. I'm still at a stage of just trying to work out how the game works, and you're interrupting me with this sort of weird mix of long-term instruction and story, which I get where it's coming from in terms of wanting to tell the story of the dysfunction of this studio, but it's not interesting to me at this stage because I want to know if the game is worth playing, and I haven't been given enough game to know that yet. Is that a... Add one hype every time you spend over $250,000 in severance. Employee productivity is increased by 20% because you hire a management consultant. Okay. But basically that's having someone who is like the threat of firing on the board. Not unique to games. Universities in the UK are doing this all the time at the moment. They have restructures, which is laying as many people off as possible. and they kind of just create an atmosphere of horribleness for a good few years while they're around. I didn't do anything myself that turn. I guess I made a decision on who to hire, which was like the game's prompting me to do something. What it feels like is, you know, when you play Monopoly and you get chance cards, it just feels like every turn is a chance card with a multiple choice thing on it. It's like you're playing Slay the Spire, but every single node you go on is a question mark thing and a multiple choice story thing. There's a fundamental conflict in this game in terms of what it looks like it's going to be and what it is, and telling people up front that this looks like it's going to be this, but it's not. It's just not going to be good enough, because it's like we've sort of got casino, then we've got a sort of visual novel level of commitment to this sort of, we're going to tell you what's happening and you make a choice. I don't know. It's not working for me. Only 2 burnouts is not bad. Borkiplier played your game on his stream. Okay, great. So random events that just do stuff that... I mean, I'll give it one thing. It does feel like a simulator, I guess. It's just my part in it as a player is not particularly interesting. You've got enough stuff here to be like, this is a simulationist model of a game studio running. Like, I don't have any problems with that. It seems to be working in that sense. It's like you're hiring and firing, you got costs, you got this kind of menacing thing of like hiring people to come in and make your game make more money by adding loot boxes or threatening to fire people so that they become more productive. All of that is working as a simulation and making sense. What's not working for me is what I as a player do to interact with this game. I don't feel like... I think part of the problem is that the thing you're trying to do is a few turns away. It's like you're spending money every turn, and then you wait a while, and then you get some money. So it's very hard to make the judgments. And again, it's just so text heavy and so reliant on text over iconography. I think Game Dev Story was a much better game than this, but that's because it was focused on the gameplay, on the game of like what the player is doing. And it was a bit more abstract. There's just so much kind of story text interrupting the other parts of this game. It's kind of like you can kind of tell that there was a narrative designer working as one of the main people on this, because it is so full of text that is kind of interrupting the flow of it. And I just want to get to a point where I can judge the gameplay, and everything is interrupting me with a paragraph of text. Okay. That's looking okay, I think. Like that chart. Again, a little bit more like hiding things we don't need when we're shown something. So when that chart comes up, there's still a lot of kind of visually noisy stuff that doesn't relate to it still visible, and then that means that the chart, you kind of almost like gloss over it mentally and you don't see it properly. Fire 10 employees. Okay, let's fire 10 employees. Do I not get to choose who it is? There's some very confusing stuff going on here. Last time I fired people, I got to choose who they were. And then this time it's like just fired some random people. Okay. 0.9 months, if only we had a smaller time unit to express that. Look, I'll have you know, I'm a big proponent of metric time. If I had my way, there wouldn't even be a month. Everything would be expressed as decimal points of a year. There's 1 year. Every 10th of a year, there is something that we used to call a month in the Dark Ages. I know it's so, Dev, if you're watching this, I know it's very frustrating to see someone play a game like this and just click through all of the options. But I can't get over this problem of just, I feel like this game doesn't really understand where its interaction space is. There's too many things going on where I do a little bit of this over here and I do a little bit of stuff on the map and I do a little bit of things with these cards and a little bit of thing in this box. And then the way the UI is designed is making that worse because I get this choice to make and everything is sort of over on the left and nothing else is grayed out or hidden or blurred or darkened. And it's just like, oh, there's all this stuff shouting at me visually round here. And then you want me to care about what's going on over here and read it. And maybe that's accidentally proving the point of the game because I'm just making decisions without really thinking about them. But I don't think that's I don't think that's to the merit of the game, you know. I'm just clicking on random stuff. I know that that's a choice I'm making. Too much textual information without icons or images. Too many decision points that are not interesting. And not enough decision making that involves using this space instead of just responding to a multiple choice thing. This could have been a Twine. It could have been a Twine game and it would have made the point better. We're going to check out. I'm going to not play that anymore. I'm going to show you what I think is the best satire of a AAA game studio. Very, very quickly. I'll show you the beginning of it. Matthew Seiji Burns. The writer will do something. We're gonna end on a Twine this stream because I don't think anyone has made a better satire of AAA games than this Twine game. The Writer Will Do Something by Tom Bissell and Matthew S. Burns. Okay. April 26th, 2012. You're the lead writer on Shattergate, Future Perfect. The third entry in a once-loved franchise. Can I advance this myself? I think it does it itself. Okay. You never finished the original Shattergate and somehow didn't play Shattergate Strike Scoured Lands, even though both games still glisteningly shrink-wrapped to occupy the same space on your coffee table that they have for the last 14 months. It's not really important how you wound up as the lead writer on Shattergate. You did. The game is 6 months from shipping. Late last week, the team received its first reactions from paid outside consultants, which were unambiguously catastrophic. You're in a meeting room with several others, most of them leads. You're fairly certain none of them knows you never finished Shattergate and never played Scoured Lands. It is Monday, 9:30 a.m. A heavy, damp towel smell lingers. You and everyone else here worked through the weekend. You look around. The meeting's attendees are Josh, the creative director, Mike, the lead designer, Troy, the lead producer, Sean, the level designer, and Erica, the art designer. Well, let's have a look at them. The creative director. 6 years ago, Josh made Dying Grasp, an innovative and highly influential first-person adventure game with minimal combat and poor sales. He cheerfully admits he dreamed up Shattergate to make money. Of course, it's not his IP, it's the company's. Nevertheless, he drives a Lexus IS 250. He tried to leave the Shattergate franchise after the Shattergate Strike Scoured Lands debacle, with a 65 score on Metacritic, later admitting that he'd failed to push back against the absurd time and production constraints he and the team had clapped upon them. But some lingering attachment to the world he'd helped create proved impossible to resist. Josh likes to remind team members how much Shattergate Future Perfect is costing the company. The first time he mentioned the number to you, you had to go and lie down. But whenever he does mention this astronomical sum, it feels to you vaguely like a self-appraisal. Anyway, this is a Twine game. You can play it in your own time. It's called The Writer Will Do Something. It is a satire about a AAA studio that is written from first person, and like you are in the role of the writer, and everyone is like trying to work out how you're going to fix the game for them because it's a mess. That is probably one of my favorite examples of a piece of satire about the games industry. The problem with AAA Simulator is that as soon as you set yourself up to be making a critique of something, you're going to make people like hyper critical of how good you're doing the thing, right? So this example is a writer doing a very good piece of interactive writing, or two writers doing a very good piece of interactive writing about the games industry. As soon as you try and make a game that is a satire of the games industry, it's like it needs to have like past the minimum bar for interaction design quality. And I think if we go back to the notes I was sent, because like people often send me the notes about their game where it is, and the developer said it's always really interesting as a kind of Rorschach when people kind of tell me what they think is bad about their game. I'm a narrative designer and writer by trade. My coding is self-taught and okay, and my art sound are probably my biggest weaknesses. I looked at this initially and I thought the art was weak, but I don't think it's the weakest part of this game. I think this game is just very, very unclear in what the player's interactions are, and it jumps between being a visual novel where you read some text and make a decision, and other forms of incredibly shallow interaction, which are all inconsistent and all over the place. So there are things you can do to tweak that. The feedback on this demo will already be giving you those. There'll be helpful feedback on that. But I would say if you really want to get good at designing games, think about what I said about Netcrawl earlier, and the next game you work on, try and make a game that has a much simpler interaction that the player is doing, that is repeated over and over again. And don't add loads of extra interactions until you're at a point where you're absolutely certain that the game needs it. Because if we wanted to make a game about running a game studio that was a Balatro-like, what are some other ways that we could do that? If we went down the route of having cards and playing cards and we put them in rooms and things happen and stuff like that, that would at least give me like a core a core set of interactions I'm doing all the time. This game is expecting me to just completely change focus all of the time to go and do this and now go and do this, and everything is different and none of them feel particularly good, and it's just like at a fundamental kind of interaction design level, it's not fun to engage with. The bits of writing that I could be bothered to read were funny and there were some good jokes in there, but it's just too visually noisy and too all over the place in terms of what the player is being asked to do. So, we don't have any user reviews yet. I mean, I guess some of that is going to come down to the visual style. Like people are maybe just not going to play this because of this weird kind of primary color clip art style. I think you could keep the art assets you have and just approach it with like a bit more of a tasteful palette, and it might improve the game. Kind of too many different sizes of text. Text is too bold a lot of the time. We've got a lot of bold text that shouldn't be bold because it's just like a whole paragraph. Yeah, loads of little kind of niggling things in this that could be improved. But from a game design perspective, I just think the game is too noisy and it's asking you to concentrate on too many things, and none of those things really none of those things draws your attention in the sense that it's kind of inherently fun or interesting to do, and that's a problem, I think. Regarding the dev notes, sorry, just jumping over to the chat, see what people are saying in the chat, because I need to bring the stream to an end soon. Because as you say, yeah, we've only got 0.00007 of a year left in the stream. So when you send games in, is it okay if the game doesn't have a tutorial or a super clear goal, but this is explained in the notes? Yes. I would expect a game like that to be sent via Twitch or to be previewed on Twitch. I think this is the thing that keeps coming up, is like the difference between a type of game where you're still playtesting the core mechanics and a type of game where you've put it on Steam and you've built like a commercial demo to showcase the game, right? A commercial demo should have a tutorial. Right? Because you're basically at a stage where you're 90% feature complete on the game, and you know what the game is at a basic level, and that's the stage when you can build a decent tutorial. This game feels a bit undercooked. It feels a bit like they've gone ahead and made quite a large game without really proving out the core mechanics and making sure those core mechanics are good for people, right? And that would be a game that I would actually expect to see with less tutorialization on itch, with just some notes of how to play it. And ideally, you should always go for, like, before you build a tutorial, you should always build in all of the helper features that help people to understand the game. So things like tooltips and stuff like that, because that is of a higher value than the tutorial. The tutorial is what you add at the end of the game when you know what the game is. The tooltips and stuff like that, or like, I don't know, you pause the game and it tells you the controls, that kind of thing. That's the stuff you can get in very early with a playtesting demo, just to make sure people understand how to play the game. That's a much higher value add to your game. Yeah, I think an on-rails tutorial is something you should generally leave till later. Try and make everything in the game as intuitive as possible before you get to that point where you're adding a full tutorial in. But Aki said, do you prefer games for review that have a sandbox or complete unlocks mode to test with? It's really hard to say. It depends what the game is. It really depends what the game is, because I think if the game is meant to be played as a kind of campaign that's structured in a series of levels, then it should be tested in that format as well. Like, the game we saw earlier, Plentiful, the hexagon game was like that, wasn't it? It was like, I think, so if we take this as an example, if we take Plentiful, the first game I played this stream, as an example, this game worked very well because each level had a goal. I think if I saw this game as a sandbox game where you just do what you want, it wouldn't have worked for me, because this is not like... This is a pretty game, but there's not enough of a simulation here for me to just enjoy building a world for these little people and seeing what they do, right? That's not going to... A little kind of simulation toy of like making that work isn't going to be kind of pleasing to me. So this needed to have levels. This needed to have a series of levels with a goal, with a little puzzle to it, where you can kind of, try and approach it different ways and stuff. So this wouldn't have worked as a all levels unlocked type thing. So I think you need to think about the overall type of experience that you're trying to make, really, because it's just going to come down to what sort of game it is. Like, and I think that's a general thing with demos in general. is like, what stage of development are you at, right? So if you're making a game and you're putting it on itch because you don't really want to commit to like it being a commercial project yet, and you're just trying to do R&D and like iron out the problems with the game before you start taking it super seriously, which is kind of the stage I'll be at with my current game in the next sort of 3 or 4 months. I'll be starting to think about putting on itch, giving it to people to play, but not putting it all over Steam and saying, here, wishlist my game. That's the kind of like playtesting prototype thing where I'll probably give people as many of the tools in the game as possible, but it still needs a structure because that's part of what you need to test. So, like, again, I'm going to go back to Netcrawl again as an example. One of the things that Netcrawl did very well for this demo, and this is an incredibly polished demo, so we're thinking much further along in the chain here. The demo here had a tutorial, and it had what they called a deep run, which was like, okay, this is a roguelike, and this allows you to play a run of the roguelike that you would play if you've been playing it for a while and you played the tutorial, but it doesn't have all the stuff yet. So that is what we would call a horizontal slice, right? So a vertical slice is, here is a finished part of the game, and it's a level or it's some levels. Like, you used to get the Doom demo and it would be the first third of the game, right? That's a horizontal slice. A vertical slice is, you can play all the way through the game and it's missing some stuff, but you wouldn't know because you're just playing through it once, right? So yeah, I would say allowing people to playtest a sandbox version of your game is fine and good and can be a good thing to do. But if you have a very clear idea of what the goal is in your game, then it's much better to give people a version with the goal, because it's just gonna be a fundamentally different experience. Like, collecting. Let me send you a article I was reading recently. This is an article about economy design that I shared in our Discord recently. By Dan Cook, who is works on. He was working on a cozy game when they made this, I think. But it talks about value chains and how, like, picking up sticks in a game isn't fundamentally fun. It's the fact that you can turn the sticks into a tool, and then you can turn the tool into making more sticks, and then you can turn the sticks into a piece of furniture, and then that meets a need of, like, oh, I get to decorate this space. Or you can turn the sticks into weapons, and then that feels a need of, like, oh, I can defeat my enemies, right? And I think the problem with just giving people sandbox versions of a game, if it's not meant to be a sandbox game, is you don't really give people a full experience of, like, what all the mechanics in the game mean, because there's not a goal that is representative of the actual goal in the game. And I think, I don't know. I don't want to ramble on about it too much, but I've definitely had some bad experiences with games where it was like, here's a sandbox version, and it wasn't really representative of what the game was supposed to be. And I think that can be fine to do early on, when you're just checking if there are, checking for bugs, checking if there are mechanics people don't understand. That's all fine. You can test that with the sandbox, but you just have to bear in mind that sandbox is going to be vastly different from the actual game if the game isn't going to be a sandbox, I swapped them around, did I? So a vertical slice is, you can't play the game all the way through. You can play a section of the game, and it's in the full quality or the target quality of the end game. Horizontal slice, you can play the game all the way through, it's in the full quality, but the stuff that's missing doesn't stop you finishing the game, right? So let's say that you work at Bethesda and you're making Fallout, right? A horizontal slice of Fallout 5 would be, you can play the main quest line all the way through, and you can maybe play one faction stuff all the way through. So ostensibly, you can play Fallout 5 from the start to the finish, but there is a bunch of stuff missing, and that stuff is in parallel to what's there, right? So that would be what a horizontal slice would be. A vertical slice would be just part of the game and it stops, and you don't get to play the whole thing. You've made me. I'm gonna double check myself, but yeah. So yeah, vertical slicing, delivering end-to-end functionality in small functional increments. So that's saying like a vertical slice would be like, here is part of the game, and it's like on its own, you know. Whereas a horizontal slice would be like the difference would be, let's say your game has combat, it has a crafting system, and it has story and character interactions. A horizontal slice of that would just be one of those systems, but you could do the whole game, right? So if you were making a game that was like a cross between an action game and a visual novel, and you made it so you could play the action game all the way through without the visual novel parts, that would be a horizontal slice, just showcasing one part of the game, right? And likewise, if you made a prototype that just had the visual novel scenes in and it didn't have the action stuff in, that would be a horizontal slice of that system. And it's still, again, both of these, the goal is still for it to be the end quality. There's just stuff missing. Whereas a vertical slice of that same game might be like one level of action with a story bit at the start and the end, but not the whole thing. But yeah, a demo could be either. So Keita just said in the chat, a demo could be either of those things. And one of the things you have to think about when you're making a demo is which type of demo should it be. One of the problems I've seen with like progression type games where you're not even progression, but like games with a lot of systems for like upgrading stuff and everything is you just don't see them at work. So they give you like a first level that is a tutorial. And by the end of that tutorial, you've seen that there are all of these menus and these subsystems and crafting and leveling up, and you don't get to use it. And it's just like, well, what are you demoing here? Timothy has said horizontal slice sounds too much like a complete game for a demo. I am very much of the opinion that your demo should be in the quality of the it should be up to scratch with how you intend the finished game to be completed. I'm very old school about that. I'm very old school about that. But that is because, you know, I come from a background where the idea of committing to a game as a commercial project before you even know if people enjoy playing it is insane, right? And that's why I think another game I saw on the channel that I think did this very well. Let me just get it up. There's a game called Underboard that is a sort of, it's a bit of a clone of Dota Underlords, but with a kind of different art style and rebuilt to be a single player run-based game. And this is their Steam version, right? This is their Steam version. It's a demo. It's pretty good. It's pretty polished. Before they even put this version on Steam, they've got Underboard here, and then they had Underboard Omen. And this is the same game. It's a prototype of the same game. It's like developing the IP, it's developing the art style and all of that. But it is kind of presented as a different game. Right? And I think really before you get to this stage of putting the game on Steam and being like, oh, this is a public demo and this is the game we intend to make, I really think you should have done something like this. Yeah, it's a good game. Good game. Music by Muddith. Because if you think of like, let's say you were working and you had a studio and you had 10 people in that studio. You would make prototypes and you would playtest them extensively with other people before you committed to making that game as a commercial project. And the problem is that putting something on Steam is committing to making it as a commercial project. You're making this outward-facing thing. I really think most people need to make smaller, simpler versions of their games, test them thoroughly on itch first before they take it to this stage. Because at this stage, your demo should be incredibly polished before you put it on here. This is an incredibly polished demo. It gives me full faith in the developers to execute on a bigger game. If you treat the word demo to just mean a prototype that I let people play, right? And you then put that on Steam, and it's like a fugly prototype, which a lot of the games that I get sent here are, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you've missed the stage where you should just be testing for really baseline problems. That's what this stage is for. That's why you do this R&D thing before you create a more polished demo and put it out to the world as like, we are making this game, we want you to wishlist it. Maybe there are some problems with it. Tell us what those are, but we've tested this idea enough to know that we've got most of the big problems out of the way, right? It's a nuanced kind of topic. There are lots of different angles you could look at it from, but yeah, I fundamentally disagree that a horizontal slice is too complete for a demo. I think a horizontal slice is too complete for certain types of games, but I think for like a run-based game, Slay the Spire, for example, like a game like Slay the Spire, you need to be able to play a run through to know how the game works, right? So that's what the demo should be. It should be start to finish, you can play a whole run. And then that type of game is very well suited to giving away a free version and then saying the full version will have 500% more content than this. And yeah. I think the problem is a lot of people hear certain advice like, oh, get a Steam page, get a demo up as early as possible. And it's like, okay, yeah, but you need to start from the position that you've tested the idea out already in some other situation, whether it's on itch, whether it is you have like a local developers meetup. And people always moan when I say this, oh, I don't have a local developers meetup. Start one then. Even if all you end up with is a couple of teenagers that want to get into game dev and they playtest your games, you've still ended up with a better situation than sitting around complaining that no one playtests your games. But you should not really be setting up Steam pages and stuff for a game that no one in the world has expressed any interest in yet. You know, it would be like going into the studio to record an album and start thinking about publishing music before you played songs in front of anyone. And that's not how people make good stuff in any field. You have to do the practice runs, you have to do the tests, you have to get people to try out the thing you're doing, whether it's a film, whether it's music, whether it's a game. It doesn't matter what it is. You're making something to entertain other people, and just going entirely off gut feel and then making something in isolation for a year and then sticking it on a platform is not how you make something good. Yeah, kind of like a free to play. I mean, there is a misconception that letting people play your game for free is going to stop them paying for it for later. A lot of the bigger indie games that have done really well have been played by thousands of people for free before they launch as a commercial game. That's how the developers refine them and make them good. They let people play it. And again, it comes back to craft, right? When you make something like this, so again, think about Underboard. This demo is here to generate wish lists. They have made this game. They've been spending a lot of time on it. They've refined it, and now they're sort of confident in it enough to put it up and say, wish list this game. It's coming out in the fourth quarter of 2025. The process they've gone through to get to that stage where they're confident enough that people like their core gameplay, they like their art style and their world building, is this scrappy little itch page giving away the free demo. That was 2023. Look at all these like update notes. Right? You don't lose anything by giving people a free version of the game early on, because you're not giving them that. You're giving them that so they can do something for you, which is tell you what's wrong with it and make it better. Right? You're too close to your own games to know everything that's wrong with them, so you need people playing them in order to tell you. And some of that advice will be bad because it will be just fundamentally someone who doesn't like that type of game, like I had earlier with that puzzle game. Like, I don't like soccer band games. I don't like rhythm games. There are just certain types of games I don't like, so I'm not the best person to give feedback on them. But that is why you need 100 people playtesting your game, or 1,000 people playtesting your game, because some of the data you get back from that won't be helpful. And you can do that through Steam playtesting as well. But it just, I don't know. It's a bit expensive to spend $100 just to put something up to playtest it to see if you should make it in the first place. You know, there are other ways of achieving that. Anyway, hope that's been helpful and not too confusing. I'm definitely not advocating people make horizontal slices. I was just trying to help people understand the difference, because most of the time a demo is a vertical slice. I think people focus a bit too much on making their demo be the tutorial on like the first hour of their game, rather than giving people an experience of what the game's actually like to play. But sometimes that comes from prematurely developing the tutorial. So I think AAA Game Studio Simulator, the game that we played last, was an example of that. You know, I would have much rather have seen a version of that much earlier on, so we could talk about the core game mechanics of the game, but we were just getting inundated with being told how to play the game for like 10 minutes, and the game wasn't really interesting enough yet to warrant all of that tutorialization, you know? It's a bit like it's a bit like having someone go, right guys, I'm going to put all this effort into teaching you how to do this thing, and it's like, well, do I really want to do the thing? Can you just let me do the thing and see if I enjoy doing the thing? It feels like you're almost trying to hide the game, because it feels like you're trying to hide the game, because it's like it's not up to scratch or whatever. And that was very much the feeling I got while playing AAA Simulator. Is just so much tutorial that's got so much story in it and stuff, and I just feel like the basic game needed to go through a lot more iterations of like, does this feel fun to interact with, before they bothered to add all that teaching material on top of it. Anyway, thank you all for joining today. I will end this ramble here because I feel like I'm going around in circles. On the monthly supporter streams, I play whatever people want me to play. Really, it's much more open. So this stream, I'm a bit more strict about what the game needs to be. It can't be finished, can't be commercially released. You know, needs to be like an alpha or beta type prototype, because then we can talk about game design. With the monthly supporter stuff, if you're in our Discord and you're a supporter, you do have to submit them through the Discord. It's all hidden away in there. But yeah, it can be anything. I mean, I've had sessions on that where we've just looked at someone's marketing copy on Steam. Happy to do that kind of stuff as well. The main thing is I just try and prioritize games we haven't looked at before, because sometimes we get busy a month and there are more games submitted, and if they're ones I've seen last month, then I make them wait. But yeah, and we might be going to doing more of those, so it might become a bi-monthly thing, or never know if bi-monthly means once every 2 months or twice a month, but twice a month. People that support the channel through YouTube memberships or through Patreon, we have a special stream that is just games being made by those people, and that might become more frequent over the coming months. Not sure, got a couple of things to work out on that front. But if you're just joining us on Twitch, I know I don't have a very full streaming schedule on here. It will get updated in September. I've got a few more regular things going on. I'm going to be doing more of my own dev streams because they're fun and people seem to find them fun as well. So this Thursday stream will stay as it is when it is, and there'll be some more regular stuff that I will put up on the Twitch timeline, and everything will be pre-scheduled on YouTube anyway. So if you're a YouTube person, you can just put the little alert me button on. English is a terribly designed language if you want things to have clear meanings. But yeah, good point. Right,